Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed coffee break. Navigate the wide sweeping changes wrought by the COVID-19 pandemic and get ready to create opportunities for the business events industry tomorrow. The Professional Convention Management Center, or the PCMA, UFI, Global Association of the Exhibition Industry, and Singapore Tourism Board jointly launched their white paper at SMF with IBTM Wired, with this panel discussion to share their insights. Let's now welcome Ms. Michelle Chan, Singapore Tourism Board, who will share about the white paper. Michelle, please.
Hi, a very good morning to everyone. PCMA, UFI, and the Singapore Tourism Board have partnered to develop a white paper to capture ways in which the global business events industry has transformed in response to COVID. Today, we're very excited to launch our paper here at SMF and IBTM Wired and to share with you our research and insights obtained from international industry practitioners. So the business events industry has always been a significant contributor to the global economy. Pre-COVID, the sector created nearly 26 million jobs and contributed $1.5 trillion to global GDP. This made it the 13th largest economy in the world, surpassing the national economies of Australia, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, the pandemic dealt a strong blow to tourism, which suffered a loss of $935 billion in the first 10 months of 2020 alone. Within the business events sector, the global exhibitions category contracted by 68%. We see now that the needs and expectations of our customers have changed. Health and safety have become urgent and visible priorities at events. We see that digital platforms and digital events have become more mainstream, and our research and feedback also tells us that live events are preferred for the higher value and higher quality of interactions. But I think the conundrum about digitalization here is not so much about whether digital events are going to replace live events, but rather the challenge is how we're going to reconceptualize both physical and digital elements to ensure that we deliver impactful events and also try to capture a larger market share. So in spite of all of these new challenges that we now need to tackle, our industry remains optimistic. We see that event planners and suppliers are feeling more hopeful about their circumstances now compared to 6 months ago, as shared from PCMA's research. There are also signs of revenues rebounding. For the exhibitions industry, a 106% year-on-year growth in revenues is projected globally for 2021. Within Asia Pacific, we are looking at a corresponding 121% growth figure. So while these growth revenue figures understandably start from a low base in 2020, I think what is heartening is the pace at which the industry is bouncing back within a year. Let's continue to take a closer look at Asia Pacific. Exhibitions in Asia are likely to see stronger growth in participation numbers from both visitors and exhibitors compared to the rest of the world. Respondents in Asia are more than twice as likely to have participated in digital or hybrid events. So this tells us that there's quite a strong appetite for such events. And we see that there's a greater proportion of event planners in Asia Pacific who are making it a priority to stream content to virtual audiences and plan for in-person and virtual audiences to interact. So with these insights, our white paper summarizes that innovation required will be more than just about adopting digital technologies. We will need to be ready to modify or abandon some of our legacy operations. We'll need to be agile to adapt to the very fluid COVID situation and evolving customer needs. We identified 3 pillars of reimagination around business models, delegate experience, and talent and capabilities. You may read more about the international case studies and the learning points shared by practitioners in the white paper. And it now gives me great pleasure to invite our moderator on stage, Ms. Yeo Siew Hoon, published author and founder of the event and news platform Web and Travel. In 2020, Web and Travel was the first travel conference to go hybrid. Together with our panelists, Siu-Hoon will delve deeper into the 3 pillars of reimagining business events. Siu-Hoon, please.
Thank you, Michelle, for setting that context. So, hi guys. I've been speaking at so many virtual events, it's felt like a real blur, so it's wonderful to have real live humans in front of me. So thank you for joining us this morning. Fantastic, it's great to be here. So I'm very pleased to welcome our panelists, Mr. Kai Hattendorf, CEO of UFI. Kai. And then we have Karen Bollinger from PCMA, dialing in from Melbourne or Queensland or wherever she is. We have Andrew Phua from the Singapore Tourism Board, and we have Vimal Gangadine from GAFME. So, Kai, I think you're supposed to sit over there, the next seat. All right, so before I join my panelists, I just want to say that it seems to me, you know, with Michelle having presented those findings, it seems to me that we are at a point in this world where we are at kind of 2 possibilities, right? One, where we feel that everything will change, and the other, where we feel that maybe nothing will change, now that some physical events are back in some parts of the world. In some parts of the world, physical events have returned fully embraced by people with no digital components. But yet here in APAC, we are kind of still toggling between virtual, hybrid, should we go all physical? So there's a kind of a tussle here. So that's why it is great to have, you know, Kai and Karen with us today, because events have returned in this market. So let's go to the audience first, and let's find out from the audience how they feel about the future, okay? So hands up, those who feel that everything will change even after this horrible thing is over. Okay, so we have a fair spread, okay. And those who feel that nothing will change when this is over. Okay, so we clearly have the majority believing that everything will change or some things will change. So, let me join you guys on the panel here. And so let's go to Kai first, okay? Physical trade shows have returned in Europe, right? So tell us what's changed and what hasn't, you know, because some of the fears that you had in the beginning unfounded, or have they come true?
There was no time to fear anything because we were all trying to figure out what was actually happening. And everyone switched all the way to digital, and everybody was saying the future is digital, period. And now that we are coming together again, and Mobile World Congress starts today in Barcelona as one of the first major international shows in Europe, everybody's eager to return to face-to-face. So now we are talking about all the pent-up demand, the need for people to reconnect, to get back together in person. And it's a little bit like a pendulum. We had to go all the way to digital, so now we are going maybe a little too far back to all physical, all face-to-face. And we will have to find a balance going forward, and that balance will define the shift and change that comes out of this. But for sure, it's great to see physical coming back, and it's great to simply be here in Singapore with a room of industry colleagues to reconnect at a distance. Good to see you all.
So Kai is the most frequent traveler I know during the pandemic. But really, so the proof of the pudding is really what the industry will look like in 2 years' time when this sort of extreme swings have been compensated for, okay?
Very much so. We will need to find that new balance between on-site. I hate offline. We are not offline. We are on. We are on-site. We are in real life. We are face-to-face. We are all in this together.
Yeah.
This is what we as humans are made to be.
Absolutely.
We are not made to be screen to screen.
I know, so that's why you are here. That's why you made the trip. Okay, so Karen, we go over to you, and you are online not on-site. But the PCMA findings are pretty optimistic, and from what I gather, it seems that APAC is the most open to digital adoption and innovation. So 2 years from now, do you think that events in APAC will have more of a virtual hybrid component than, say, the US or Europe? What's your take?
That's an interesting question. Obviously, the survey is saying 100% that, I think it's about 65% saying that all after events going forward in this region will have a hybrid component. So that's pretty significant. How long that lasts for and what the appetite is a different question. And I think some of that's to do with the fact that the diversity of our region as a whole. We've got language, we've got places like Australia where you have to get on the plane to visit us. It's not like you can drive overland and go through 3 different countries to get here, and certainly parts of Asia in the very same boat. So I think hybrid is here to stay. I think it will probably be a little bit different. It might not be live at the same time. The hybrid may take the best of some of the face-to-face and actually repurpose it and use it at a different time and space. And so I think a lot of that will start to evolve as we go forward in the next 12 months or so.
Right, we are already seeing a lot of permutations happening now anyway with events in APAC, right? So let's go to Andrew. And Andrew, Singapore, congratulations on hosting this event again. You guys have really been setting the pace to kind of hold physical events back in the last quarter, and you've really kind of pushed boundaries with a few events. So what one key lesson have you learned that you are still able to sit here smiling through all the challenges that you've been through?
Well, I think it's really important that we have to be agile and nimble. When we were last here for Travel Revive and Geo Connect, it was a much larger event. It was a phase 2, and now we are phase 3 heightened alert. We might hunker down, but we stood up again, we learn, we experiment, we pilot, and we get new insights, right? And our safe business framework together working with SASIOS is almost like that beacon where we use it as a standard, where we will be able to do it modular, whether we want to switch it with different drawer plans, where all of us are very tired of, but at the end of the day, we know that we have to resilient and stand up and continue to innovate and experiment.
Okay. All right. So, Vimal, your company has been in the kind of eye of the storm, right? It's a breakout moment for tech companies especially. So what one key lesson have you learned in the past 18 months? You were the one who said, hybrid is going to be the future, right?
Yeah.
But clearly it hasn't really happened yet.
I think we're on the way there. One surprising thing for me was, so there's this company called Explory. So they studied the NPS score of events. So they did that throughout 2020. They studied the customer satisfaction for physical events, virtual events. And virtual events are meant to be like, the poor cousin of the real thing. The results came out and the satisfaction scores were pretty much the same for both, right? So I think that digital component of events is here to stay, right? Attendees are seeing value. I think sponsors and exhibitors are starting to extract value out of that. And I think as organizers, event owners, I think it's now basically to learn how best to utilize that digital component. Yeah.
Right. What you've said was kind of, stated in the survey, right? That sponsors are beginning to see value and that delegates are actually also getting to enjoy the value of virtual. And for me, when I attend a physical event like this, I always ask myself, could I have done this virtually as an attendee, as a consumer? Could I have done this virtually? What am I getting out of this physically that I will not get virtually? And maybe that's the question that our customers will ask. So I'm going to ask you now in one word, name one change that will endure forever. Like one thing that will change forever. And we start with you, Vimal.
Well, the digital component of events. That's not going away.
Okay. Andrew?
I'm a little bit greedy. I'm going to summarize in 9 characters. My experience for the last 1.5 years is 穷则变，变则通，通则久. And to me, our survival instincts has really led us to change, to be nimble, and that lead us to new solutions, and that will be sustained in the long run.
All right. Kai?
We will have a change and a balance between online and on-site. and this will have to be rebalanced according to the needs of customers in different parts of the world.
Okay, and Karen, over to you.
Community engagement. So we'll understand our community a lot more and be able to engage with them often in different formats. And that will be a combination of digital, face-to-face, and online 365 days a year.
Okay, so deeper community engagement is the change that you picked that will endure forever. So let's move to the reimagining part, which is the white paper. And basically, let me quote the white paper, which Michelle actually said, but I'm going to emphasize it here. Because it says that the conundrum of digitalization is less about whether digital events would supplant live events. Rather, it is about how digital technologies can help meet evolving customer needs across different event formats, whether they're physical, digital, or hybrid. And there are three areas that need to be reimagined according to the white paper. It is business model, it is delegate experience, and it's talent and capability. So what we're going to do with this panel is we're going to break it down into each section, and I'm going to ask you guys to reimagine each part, okay? So we start off with business model, and I'm going to quote from the white paper again. It says, industry players now seek to create fresh value for partners and delegates, and they must start by thinking about their core offerings and ability to pivot operations. So in the most fundamental sense, innovation is about adapting to customer needs and recognizing what aspects of the business are relevant to current requirements and what are not. So it's about asking your business the tough questions. What is relevant to your customer requirements and what are not? And throw away those that are not, and then figure out the ones that are really, really relevant and build on that. So let's go to each of you, and I'm going to ask you to share a challenge and opportunity. Can be both, right? A challenge is usually an opportunity around the reimagining of business model. So Kai, what's the challenge and opportunity that's facing us?
The challenge is to think that as people come back, driven by that pent-up demand to reconnect, that things will be as they were before. And that's fine, and there's no need to evolve. And that digital was just a hype and a fad, and that's it. It's an opportunity squandered. And likewise, the opportunity is to really understand how you can evolve that customer relationship, how you can evolve that trade show floor, that marketplace, that meeting place in the digital space to serve the same customers omni-channel, to give them more opportunities to connect buyers and sellers.
Okay, so basically, you know, I'm actually seeing that sentiment kind of settle in the US, that, you know, people are so excited about being back physically that they go, yay, you know, like nothing's going to change, we're all back together. So I think you're saying that don't waste this opportunity to
Indeed.
really...
Look at the trade show floors in China, where people are totally focused on the physical experience while they're on the trade show floor. And they use their screens to navigate the venue. And we're seeing the same now taking shape in the US. At the same time, as an industry, we need to discuss how we need to evolve that offering beyond the show floor dates, not just pre and post show, but all year.
All right, okay. Vimal.
Well, the thing is, I think the challenge is all playbooks may not work anymore, right? So one of the things that we're seeing ourselves is ticketing, registration as a source of revenue. I think that may be dead for business events. It hasn't worked last year, and content is being made available free. So people are asking themselves, why should I pay for a conference?
Yeah, that's clearly one of the challenges, but at the same time, an opportunity if you can,
an opportunity
if you
to
can
uncover
crack that.
new business models. Yeah.
Let's go to Karen. I'm not going to forget you hanging there.
I know, that's what happens when you're so far away. So I think, you know, we talk a lot about data, and that's what this new model has started to give us. It's actually then how we interpret that data and how we actually use it going forward, and how we apply it to the building of conferences and events. And so understanding your community and understanding what they're asking for, and that will actually then help evolve the business model as to where and when people buy in, whether, as you suggest, Vimal, it's worth paying your money. And as you said, Suhoon, whether it's actually worth getting on a plane and attending or turning up physically. And I think they're the trade-offs and choices that people will start to make. So understanding your data and your insights out of it will actually influence your business model going forward.
Okay, so better measurements and impact, that's really, really needed. Okay, so Andrew, we go to you.
Well, I think at every pilot that we tested, whether it's with Sasios, and we had a really good discussion with VMAL, it's really thinking like a startup. You experiment, you test and pilot. I think of all the tech and digital enablers that we have trialed for the last probably 1 year, it's more than what I have done personally for the past decade in MICE. And that is exciting because I think we are going to reach this balance where we know whether these digital enablers will work for us as we go ahead, trying to forge a new model, whether it's a hybrid or the new sustainable business model in the long run.
Okay, so you've done 90 pilots, according to Michelle, 90 pilots. That's amazing. So out of those 90, what have you learned about the different business models that were experimented? Or were those pilots, revenue generating? So what works and what doesn't? Give me one example.
Well, I think I must qualify that the 90 pilots is a combination of myself and Edward's team, that we are working very hard from small meetings to large exhibitions. And largely, it's a case where a crisis helps us to unite and forge partnerships. We can't do it alone, for sure. Many of these pilots actually requires lots of government enablers to support. And you will realize that the Singapore Tourism Board at large has pivoted our way of thinking as well. I mean, gone are the days where we look at warm bodies. I really like to have more warm bodies here, but because of the social distancing and so forth, how do we monetize content is one big piece that we are looking at. And I think we are still grappling, to be honest.
Okay.
But I think with the digital enablers and the partnerships that we have forged, we might see the end of the tunnel one day.
Okay, so clearly Vimal has said that, ticketing is challenged right now. And content is also challenged because it's all free, but there are ways to monetize it. So Vimal, we go to you. You work with clients from across the world. So other than maybe trying to find ways to monetize content and then forget about ticketing for now, what experimental business models can we learn from?
Well, we are starting to see some that works. And here probably I'm going to talk from the perspective of event agencies, subscription model. So that's starting to work. So now what brands are starting to do is, rather than having one big event for maximum exposure, they're doing a series of events throughout the year. It could be monthly, it could be quarterly, or a little bit more, right? So agencies, and then these events are made available on demand. Agencies are building a subscription model. You can call it a retainer model. So that we're seeing is working. Right? So you can apply the same model then to basically attendees subscribing for premium content. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Kai, what aspects of UFI are relevant to current requirements and what are not? Because associations have been also very challenged at this time.
It's the big question, and there was already mention of agility in the first keynote, and we've already talked about the need to be agile and nimble. Now, we are the trade association for the exhibition industry, so we've done a lot of different things in the last 18 months compared to the 18 months before. We've multiplied advocacy work, we've invested even more in research and tracking the impact of the pandemic, and we are now discussing with the leadership how we need to evolve the priorities and activities as we will have our centennial in 2025. We want to be as relevant and supportive of the industry then as we've been in the last 18 months. I believe a big field where there's work ahead for all of us is alignment around data standards. We need currencies to show the value of digital interaction so that we can monetize it, show the value and then charge for the value. We need to find an answer as an industry to what will be the biggest question for all of us in the next 10, 20 years, that's climate change. Climate change will impact everything we do, and it needs to be drilled down into the priorities of an association servicing an industry and community.
Yeah, definitely. I think, a lot of our customers will start to think too about whether they want to fly to this event because of, carbon footprint and all that. So we need better data management and better data standards to align ourselves as an industry. So Karen, I'm sure, PCMA is thinking similarly about this.
Yeah, and I concur about better standards globally. And I think that's why sometimes it's a challenge for us as an industry that we don't necessarily get taken quite as seriously as some of other sectors. But I think for us, we talk a lot about how we actually understanding the data that we have, then how that actually gets applied to developing great content, great professional development programs, You know, the data is so important for all of us going forward. And I think that we've just got to remember about how we gather it, why we're gathering it, and how we use it. And that will actually then start to influence, I guess, you know, the shape of our businesses going forward.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions. So, you know, you can ask questions through the WhatsApp channel as well as virtually. So the first question is, with hybrid event, again, to business model, what is the change in measurement of success or ROI? Now, who would like to take that question? One of you. Yeah, Vimal. Okay.
So registrations, attendance for events were typically the one metric that was used, but now the nature of digital hybrid events give us richer data, right? So the engagement can be computed. So how much time has people spent watching a certain speaker, rather than just doing a survey to determine like how effective that was. Now that can be inferred based on the quality of the questions, the sentiments, right? So I would say engagement. So there are some works that are going on currently, like to standardize these metrics itself. So today everybody is having their own definitions in terms of what engagement is and how engagement can be measured. But I think that's one of the direction. And for sponsors, end of the day, I think that doesn't change. Is basically how much business are you getting?
How much business do they get out of leads that they generate? So it comes down to the same thing. So I think that there is something that we would like UFI and PCMA to come up with. You know, is the new definition of success and ROI for hybrid events. So the second question is from Christopher of Montgomery, Asia, and he asks, events are about content, products, and people. Can we, as an industry, offer true value to our clients until full, experiential, and dare I say it, fun networking returns? So, Kai, I'm going to ask you to answer that.
No, we can't.
Yeah, good. All right, let's be honest here. No, we can't.
No, it's
so,
honestly,
excellent. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Because this was a feedback channel now. Yeah, the audience reacted, and they liked what I said, which makes me happy. So. My body sends me a positive signal. He got some movement from clapping his hands. It's all physical interaction. It's activating all our senses, which we can't do in the digital space. We can share great content, and everybody watching this right now live, I hope you enjoyed and keep those questions coming. But you can't interact with us, right? You can't stand at a mic and ask a question. We can't see your body language. We can't see the reaction, the response. So all these elements that really make for an experiential conversation aren't there digitally.
Okay, but we will get there. But for now, this is as good as it gets for now. Okay, so to summarize the part about the reimagining business model, we have monetized content, we have events within events, sponsored content or series of events that you were talking about, like subscription models, focus on the channel, and focus on the community. Okay, so I'm going to rush this along. We got to go to the delegate experience now, and the quote from the white paper says that channels, platforms, and event formats should change with the times, which we know that, right? And so new tools have come up. So let's cite one challenge and opportunity that stands in the way of reimagining the delegate experience, short of sort of that physical networking. Okay, Vimal.
Well, the thing is, I think digital, physical, we need to look at them as two separate channels, right? And when reimagining, it can't be like, we use the word hybrid probably for convenience, right? But that has to be taken as two separate channels, reimagined separately, and then be invested separately.
Okay, Kai.
We can't say that often enough. A hybrid event that tries to do everything at the same time, it multiplies the effort and minimizes the value. Do focus on the channel. Do focus on the virtual experience for those watching this now with the chat and with the interactive dialogues online. But they can't spill into this physical space and optimize this event here on site for everyone who's here. The one thing I do hope we get rid of is the term virtual. Because whether an event is in real life, here in this room, or whether an event is online only, it is a real event. Real people doing real stuff for the benefit of other real people. Right. There's nothing virtual about that. So let's please stop talking virtual. It's online, it's on site, but it's all real.
We hear you. Okay. Do not use the word virtual ever again on this panel, guys. Okay. Andrew, you believe that events can be multi-sensory.
Yes, I believe they can be multi-sensory, whether they are hybrid, or digital, on-site or off-site. I did not use the word virtual. But to me, when we first had this pandemic hit, I think the natural gravitation was towards high-tech, low-touch. And I think it's very important that we have to make a verdict at the end of the day, whether that equates to high engagement and high ROI.
Okay, high-tech, low-touch. Okay. So you believe that it can be multi-sensory. Karen, what do you believe? That you are hanging out there and not with us. What do you believe?
I believe it's a terrible experience. I mean, I might get amazing information, but it's certainly not the same as seeing people face to face, which is what I think the challenge that we will have as an industry is not going back to what we used to have. And it really is that the face-to-face has to be reimagined, because I think what we've all realised is the exchange that we have is far greater if we're actually able to do it in a less structured environment. And I say that by I think about, a 4-day event, you turn up, you spend an awful lot of time in rooms listening at people instead of being engaged in people. And I think that's what virtual's shown us, that we can listen, but what we really want to do is exchange those ideas and thinking. So new events probably have to actually shape their formats to allow more of that to happen, and that people can actually truly have meaningful exchanges, knowledge exchange, so that they can actually get value out of the conference.
Right. So it feels to me like as an industry, we need to come together and, all of us work together to create what we imagine to be that kind of event that we are talking about. It almost seems like we need to challenge ourselves to do that, right? Instead of kind of talk about it.
And I think you should ask our customers, because they're the ones who are saying, I am going to start making choices about where I spend my time. And if I can get the same value sitting on a screen, then there's no reason for me to go. So the actually face-to-face has to have so much FOMO in it that they will turn up. And a lot of that's actually about those conversations that you just can't have through this environment.
Okay, so let me ask the virtual audience out there, and if you can type into the chat, right? Do you feel that this event make you feel that you really want to be here in this room with us? So let's see if we get a chat going on that stream and see if we have touched something in them that makes them want to be here. All right, so I'm sure like me, you've attended countless events, right? Virtual, hybrid, whatever, physical. So can you share one event that you attended, virtual, that had a great delegate experience? Okay, physical, virtual or hybrid, a great delegate experience. Kai.
I went to the US in April to the first industry event in the US. And it was like this, it was our industry community. So it wasn't, sorry Karen, it weren't the customers yet. But people were crying of joy to see each other. And that goes in here. And it shows me what drives our industry. And if we get that emotion, if we get that drive over to our customers, this is the additional incentive to get them traveling again as soon as it's possible.
All right, so the challenge to all of us is how to make our customers cry when they come to your event for the first time.
Cry of joy.
All right, so that's our challenge. Laugh and cry with joy. Okay, Andrew.
Well, last year, like many of you, I really suffered from a Zoom fatigue. There was really too many virtual meetings, and I always think that virtual meetings are so flat, but I attended the Web and Travel Virtual Summit around the world in 6 hours, not 60 days, and I think it was impossible, right, for 6 hours. I remember it started at 5 p.m. and Siu Hoon were dancing with the South American music, and we have some Singapore food that was delivered to some of the attendees' home. And that answers the part that perhaps we didn't make people cry, while we made them hungry with the good Singapore food. And it's multisensory. And I think there was a lot of happiness with the dancing and music. And that is what I call, we can use multisensorial experience across the different omni-channels.
Yeah, we had the virtual customers saying, oh, you're making us hungry and we wish we could have had that food, and you made us want to go to South America for that music. So Vimal, what about you?
Well, I'll tell you about two events, not event per se. So the first one is basically a workshop. So we met online over Zoom done using a tool called Mural. It was a design thinking workshop, around 10 people, went very well, pretty engaging, I would say. And then the same team met probably around 3-4 months later. We were all so happy, like finally we were going to be meeting up together and all that. It was great meeting up. There was joy in there, but the experience of the workshop was worse. The sticky notes were dropping. It was more difficult to document the whole thing. Conducting the workshop was better online. I was surprised.
Okay, so virtual work really good for the productivity part and all that, and then that is a good model actually, for
Exactly.
for event.
In fact, I don't disagree with Kai. There are certain stuffs which will work better in person, and we should do
Vimal,
that
can
more.
you put the mic closer?
And we should do that more. And some stuffs that we are learning that works better online.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Karen, we go to you.
Vimal, you have just described what the new face-to-face needs to start to look like, because I concur with how do we use online pre and during, and then what are we actually using our face-to-face. But my experience has been, we had a small event earlier on in May, I think it was, for Global Meetings Industry Day. And I went to the W Hotel in Melbourne, which is newly opened like a month before, quite a special place. And there was a group probably of about 25, 30 meeting planners in the room. So again, a little bit of our industry. And the buzz and the energy in that room could not be touched with the fact that people wanted to see each other, business was starting to come back, everybody was super excited, but the knowledge exchange that was going on both at the tables and then during the presentation probably far surpassed anything that we would have been able to do in an online environment. So, and it wasn't a workshop, and I think that that's where it does start to differentiate what you're trying to do with your time, but certainly the physical, and I think that that's a little bit inherent in our industry. We quite like physical.
So it seems to me like, if you know what the outcome is, if you intend a certain outcome, and then you look at the outcome and then you design that your experience to get to the outcome, whether it's a bit of virtual, a bit of hybrid or physical, but you get to the outcome eventually, and you bring your customers along to their outcome. Okay, so it's definitely not all about tech. I mean, tech definitely empowers us, but tech is frustrating and it's hard sometimes. So let's look at the elements that are needed to deliver a great delegate experience, and I want you to rank them in order of importance, okay? And the audience can join us here. So rank them in order of importance, 1 to 10, 1 being least important and 10 being most, okay? And I guess you guys can shout, I don't know, how do we do this physically now? I have no idea how to interact with a physical audience anymore because we don't have the polling. Okay, number 1, ideas and content, Vimal.
10.
10? Andrew?
10.
10?
11.
11, okay. Karen?
Oh, big numbers. I'd say ideas and content is out of 10, did you say? I'd say 10.
10, okay. Everybody
Actually,
agrees.
say 11.
Everybody agrees in the audience? Ideas and content, 10? Okay, cool. Tech and execution.
I'd say 6.
6?
7.
Tech 5, execution 9.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karen?
I would be tech. I'm a tech would be 5, and an execution would definitely be a 10.
All right, okay. Concept and outcome.
6.
6,
Yep.
okay.
Probably a 9.
9?
10.
10. Karen?
I'd say 9. 9.
What do you in the audience think? Concept and outcome. Mike, 10. Mike? 9, okay. So we're seeing high scores, okay. Talent and service, since we say it's a people industry, talent and service.
9.
9?
10.
10?
11.
11?
12.
I'd say 10.
Okay, Aloysius? 10. Okay, so we all have very high scores for everything. We are very demanding as an industry. We want everything. Okay, networks and connections.
10 then.
9.
10.
Karen?
I'm going to say 20.
All right, well, you know, for the audience here in the room, who wants to shout a number? 100. Okay, well done. I'm doing a bidding auction here. You know, it's great. Okay, 100. All right. So you know, we are going to run out of time. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to jump a couple of questions. Okay, and then I'm going to go. All right, Andrew, you led the Alliance for Action, right? And you to pilot new ways to deliver safe, innovative experiences. So beyond the safety and hygiene protocols, can you share a couple of tech solutions that added to the delegate experience in a sensory way?
That's a tough one because I talk about high tech, low touch. I think first and foremost, our vision for Singapore is really to position ourselves as a safe, trusted, and innovation event. Safe and trusted is like what you have mentioned, the safe measures, 1 meter distance. And I think innovation might help us to reach that level of what we call multisensory. One thing that we piloted at the last event was GeoConnect, where we have dongles, and the primary focus was functional. It was really to measure how long an interaction is between a buyer and seller and two attendees, right? But I think what is interesting is from the real-time analytics, and we work very close with Sasios and VMAL, the two tech companies. For the first time, we were able to have real-time information on the duration of the meeting, how long did it take, and so forth. And the question I asked myself with the tech experts is, maybe there's a way to look at engineering serendipity and spontaneity, like what Kai has mentioned.
Right.
It's not easy, but perhaps with such real-time statistics and information, you are able to bring it to the next level.
Right.
And at the same time, when we were piloting MICE events, we start to look at bespoke experiences, because when our attendees are here, they need to do something more interesting and engaging after event hours. And we start doing virtual tours, bespoke itineraries, fishing in a Kelong, or what we call a fishing hut, and that is something that we would never ever think of pre-COVID. So that's something that is a key takeaway. Yeah.
Okay, so I wonder, you know, I know we measure data and numbers and all that, but I wonder if we should be measuring emojis as well. You know what Mark was saying, like in the toilet, and you know, touch although you don't want to touch screens right now, but you know, if there was a happy face and I say, wow, you know, this makes me, so maybe there's a way that we can actually measure some kind of emotional experience versus the physical engagement. Okay, so I'm just going to go to questions from the audience and some comments. From a virtual attendee, Kai, they agree with you. They say that even though the pandemic has required us to opt for virtually, the truth of the matter is that people want to return to events face-to-face. Okay. Then from an attendee in this room, maybe we should stop calling it hybrid events too. We should be thinking of augmented physical events. The digital components should be used to enhance the physical experience. Okay, from the virtual attendee, event organizers must work hard to promote face-to-face events. I think that the future will prove us right, and we will return to 100% face-to-face events. All right, now we have a question. It's great to have all these comments from our audience, but here's a question. I had more interaction with the crew serving coffee than with people in my zone. Do we have a conference Tinder-like app to change this? Vimal, I know you use Tinder, so you know maybe you can.
Why do you know that?
Just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah, but no, I mean, this is an excellent example of an augmented event, right? So you're already receiving these messages. That's not requiring any app. That's happening on WhatsApp itself. I think that's great. There's going to be lots of experimentation. And I think the key here is, like what Andrew mentioned also, is to experiment. And that's what we've been doing with the work at Sasios together with STB. So each and every pilot event or every other event that's happening is in the spirit of experimentation. So you have an idea, you start small, you implement it, you measure whether it succeeds or fails, you learn from it. If it succeeds, you know what? Double down, persevere. If it fails, pivot. And then you know what? Repeat the cycle again. And I think that's how we're going to improve. Yeah.
Okay. Final comment from a virtual attendee. The MICE industry should learn more from how the B2C industry do business. Multi-channel product monetization. So thank you for that comment. So I'm going to save the last 15 minutes for the talent question, which is really, really important. But first, I want to do the thumbs up and thumbs down. Okay, so we talk about new tech and how that will change the delegate experience, right? So thumbs up or thumbs down to what I'm going to say, and you in the audience, please take part. Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you believe this is going to impact the delegate experience, thumbs up, okay? Metaverse and avatars.
I don't even
Okay,
understand that.
we have a couple of, okay, and Karen is kind of unsure. Okay, 3D spaces and booths. All right, cool. Speed dating and matching apps. All right, we have a lot of people wanting that, except Andrew. Andrew, what's wrong with you? Okay, augmented virtual reality. All right, everybody's up for that, except for a couple of thumbs, but augmented virtual reality. Okay, so to summarize, it's like one tip. I mean, we had a lot of tips, but a couple of tips on how delegate experience can be reimagined. One is from Vimal, challenge all assumptions and think of virtual and physical as two experiences. Kai says, focus on the channel to get to the outcome that you want. Karen means reimagine face-to-face. And Andrew says, think multi-sensory. Okay, so we move on to the last point, which is really the most important point, talent and capabilities, right? And basically, I quote from the white paper, Richard Ireland, Vice President, Professional Development for Sasio, said this: training business events professional for a COVID-19 environment needs to go beyond technology. Business event staff also need to cultivate skills in broadcasting, strategic narrative building, content production, data management, and cyber security. It seems like we all want to hire superheroes. That's a lot. Okay, so let's cite one challenge around the reimagining of talent and capabilities. Vima.
Well, I think the first thing is if the thought of just sending some staff for training and then things will change, I think it doesn't work, right? Reimagining talent has to come from the mindset to change, the willingness to change. So that has to come from the organization, and then the rest is the result of that. I think that's the very first step.
Okay, Karen?
I think it's expecting that one person can do all of that. For many organisations, the event manager has had a role that's been very much around logistics and organising, bringing lots of people together. Well, as you said, you know, they've got to start being script writers, they've got to start being tech experts, broadcast specialists, all skills that actually sit within other businesses, not necessarily even in the events world. So we've got to start thinking about how they actually bring those together in the meetings world, where you can't really afford to sit having one person just doing that, but you've got to draw on a broader community.
Okay, so you're talking about really even having more areas of specialization to kind of deliver that general experience. Okay.
Correct.
Andrew.
Well, I think the challenge for the MICE industry as a whole, from a macro perspective, is really retaining of talent. I think we are quite mindful that we have to open in a calibrated and safe manner. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but at the end of the day, how do we retain our talent within the industry?
Okay. Kai?
To understand in our minds that are, as Karen says, so focused on delivering around logistics and on-site experiences, to understand in our minds what kind of skills we actually need for a different environment, and then put that into words. I struggle to put that into words. What is a metaverse, right? I gave it thumbs down because I have no clue what a metaverse is outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's probably not what we want. So what I don't understand, I can't hire.
All right, okay. So,
Who knows what a metaverse is?
I'm sure you know, right?
Rima, you know what a metaverse is. Can you explain me?
See, you gave that a thumbs down because
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so maybe
virtual
there's a
virtual worlds that you can go in as an avatar, right? Will that really work? In certain circumstances, we're seeing people who are actually loving it.
So Second Life Reloaded.
Yeah, it's Second Life 10.0.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the question actually came from a attendee just now. Is how should venues evolve from selling square meters to virtual space, right? You know, how do you sell square foot to airtime? What would the future MICE venue look like?
Well, the thing is, I think the very first question is what are events itself, right? So events is really when we bring people together to have that synchronous experience, right? And I think that's what's different from, let's say, Facebook, which is a networking platform, or LinkedIn, right? And we're now talking about the augmentation of the experience. So I think venues, like what we're already seeing here, right, is already providing the extension to the digital world as an extension for different people to join in. Now, whether people want to join just on WhatsApp, that's great, that could work. Whether they want to join in a metaverse, right? That works as well. Right. Whether they want to join in a 3D booth, I think that works. I think it should, we should allow all of these experiences to be possible because different people in different industries with different demographics will want different things.
Right. I think if we want to learn about metaverses, and we're not going to go in here, but we should definitely have speakers from the gaming world and the fashion world and the fintech world, because those three industries are the ones that's really pushing the envelope on metaverses and how you can buy non-fungible tokens for digital art, digital fashion, and digital currency, right? So those are the three industries that are pushing metaverses, and I believe that they do have applications for our industry. All right, so you know, one of the things that we cover travel tech, right? And we finding that it's really hard to hold on to tech talent as well, because you know, travel is so hard right now, and events is so hard, and other sectors are so sexy right now, right? E-commerce, logistics, drones, and all that. So Vimal, how do you hold on and attract tech talent, which is really, really needed right now, even though, yeah, we do need other skills, but tech talent is really important?
Well, the thing with tech talent is, I think that's a big problem globally, everywhere. Because in a way, what has happened, it didn't start last year, but that accelerated the whole digital transformation process, digitization of lots of businesses, right? So there's this whole, scarcity of tech talent right now. So right now, like for us, how we attract people is, I think events is, end of the day, a very sexy business, right? Lots of beautiful experiences. And the thing is, you go to different events, it's actually totally different. And I think that's what we need to continue building. And I think that's what brings the appeal. Yeah.
I think later on we'll have a session on entrepreneurs getting into this space. I mean, definitely I am getting calls all the time from entrepreneurs who are getting into this space and kind of building up new worlds, you know. So we have a couple of comments from our attendees here. Virtual reality and 3D booths are just more examples of digital hype and chat that distracts from the actual meaningful business outcomes, especially for exhibitions. It further adds unnecessary costs and technical challenges. So Kai is absolutely agreeing on that. Yeah, you know, in any disruption, you know, there's always a falling in love with, you know, bleeding edge tech, right? You know, people fall in love and jump into it, and then there will be a return to some semblance of rationality after this. Okay, so we have another comment from the physical attendee that says, selling airtime will die like traditional media. Subscription models and deeper engagement is the long-term trend. So this is from the comment from the audience. So let's talk about coming back to the talent part, right? And so the areas of skills you need: broadcasting, strategic narrative building, content production, data management, and cyber security. Those are the 5 areas. So one idea shared in the white paper is to source ideas and talent from different sources. So go outside the industry. So Kai, each of you share one idea that you have, you know, about building up talent and capabilities. Kai.
Stop the inferiority complex we have as an industry. We don't have to look for talent. We have one of the sexiest industries in the world. Our industry is a metaverse. Every event is different, right? So, and what brought our industry to the global powerhouse that it is to connect ideas, people, business, is that we've been able to attract talents of all kinds. Yes, you can do excellent education in our sector about how to set up a hall and whatever metrics we have as an industry, the pragmatics on the delivery. But we've always been able to source the talent we needed when the industry changed, because we are an attractive industry. And what I hear from the Valley in the US is all these people who joined the tech companies because they were part of a community, they had a campus life, and they could travel. Their employers told them, work from home, don't come to the campus, don't travel. These folks are leaving the tech companies left, right, and center, and they're all rushing back to do corporate events now and to reopen their campuses because they misunderstood what was driving people to work for them. The community experience, the event element of working in a tech company. And if there's one sector in the world that can offer an event experience, it's all of us. So I argue it's never been easier to hire tech talent. We just have to go and do it and stop thinking, oh, it's so difficult.
Absolutely. So, this is the real metaverse, people. This is the real metaverse. And I feel like you're absolutely right. I feel like, we must learn to stop apologizing for our industry and really, really, at this critical time where we are caught between the two worlds of, the two possibilities, that we really, really need to sell the upside, but without a partial agenda. Like, we really need to sell the upside of our industry to make it attractive.
Whether it's the G20 summit or a local trade show, whether it's this industry event or Formula One race, whatever it is, it's all events. And we make these happen. And nothing would happen without us.
Okay, Andrew?
I think from a talent perspective, I will still go back to the part about partnerships. I think this crisis and competition has made us move faster, but collaborations and partnerships will make us better. And it's good to also look at ideas that's outside the MICE industry. I think one case in point which I enjoyed very much was our New York office, who has started a taxi driver uncle on Twitch. And it was authentic, it was pretty tongue-in-cheek, but I think people enjoyed it, and it was one of the 1% of the live streams on Twitch. And I think the Americans must be wondering, where is this taxi uncle in Singapore when they come here physically? It's something that we can learn about. Yeah.
All right, Vima?
I think one of the things I've realized within our industry is people are very versatile, right? If you look at everybody, like what we've been doing individually over the past year, like for example, you've gone through so many tech innovations. So I know of event managers who are now doing live streaming production, skill sets that they didn't know, right? But all in the name of creating a better experience. Whether that experience is in the physical world or in the online world, but adapting, and I think that's what's happening. Yeah.
Karen?
I think that this industry is made and built of people that know and how to manage crises. So if you think about an event, right, you generally put in place everything, and you have risk mitigation plans, you have all kinds of stuff in place, but there is invariably some kind of crisis on nearly every event. It's not unusual, whether that could be anything from the tech doesn't fail, someone doesn't show up. So I think we are built for that, and I think it's how we approach it and how we handle it. So if you start thinking about where you're starting to get sources to people to be part of our industry, it's those who have critical thinking. It is those areas that people like the rush or adrenaline, if you like, of being able to solve with the practicalities. So it's not necessarily just being events, it's actually about all the other things that we actually have in our wheelhouse of the skills and talents on how we approach our business. So planning is very high on the agenda, but gee, that crisis management, we could probably teach some of the governments of the world a few things on how to deal with a crisis. Be prepared, have about five plans in place, and by the way, when you're going to approach it, you just do it in a very calm manner. So I think there's some opportunities for us to start thinking a little bit differently about where we source our talent from.
Okay, so for me as an event organizer as well as a journalist, I mean, one of the greatest opportunities of COVID, so thank you COVID, is the opportunity to work with all kinds of venues, right, throughout Singapore, right? Whether it's a virtual venue like GEFME, whether it's this venue, Marina Bay Sands, Suntec, Fairmont, Resort World, we're working across with all venues, SingX as well. My team and I have been so super impressed by the kids, I say kids because, I'm old, but, by the kids who have absolutely taken on new skills and just kind of reinvent themselves, and you know what? They are going to come out into the workforce. I mean, they are going to be such a valuable asset to our industry going forward. So this period has been fantastic compression of talent reskilling that I've ever seen in our industry. So I think we are on a good road. So finally, I just want to wrap up the three things that we've talked about, right? Reimagining business model, delegate experience, talent, and capabilities. So I'm going to ask you, I mean, our industry is in macro shock for sure, right? People have lost a lot of money, people have lost jobs. So if you had to pick the three, which one would you focus on? Right? Which one would be the most difficult? 1 to 10, degree of difficulty. Business model, 1 to 10. Business model.
I think 7. Yep.
7?
7, yep.
9.
9?
1. It's super simple.
Super simple?
Yeah.
I love your confidence. All right, Kai? Sorry, Karen?
Karen, it's all right. Sounds like. I would go 9 for business model because I actually think I love Vermeer's view from a tech, but I just think we haven't got it right yet.
Okay, from the audience, business model. How difficult is it going to be to reimagine the business model? 1 to 10. Aloysius? 7? 6. Okay, 6. Mike? 7. Okay. So middling. All right. Delegate experience. Vima?
I think 2.
2. Easy.
4.
4. Easy.
1.
1. Easiest. Karen?
1.
All right. Do you all agree in the audience that delegate experience is the easiest to reimagine? Not so sure. Not so sure. Okay. Talent and capabilities. Vima?
I think 5.
5.
Probably 8.
8.
2.
All right, so that's really, really hard for Kai, by the way. So, Karen.
I'm going to go with an 8.
All right, so, it's interesting, the different mix of views, and so I hope that you've enjoyed this panel. I hope that we've given you some tips on how you can reimagine the business model, delegate experience, and talent and capabilities. And I guess it's up to us to kind of decide what we want our business to look like in 2 years' time when things come back to some form of rationality. So thank you for your attention. Thank you to our virtual audience for your comments. You've really added to the discussion and engagement. Thank you, Vimal. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Kai. And thank you, Karen. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.